The way that people are interacting with Google search is changing, and this change in behavior will lead to one thing, and that is a significant increase in your CPCs. Just in case that you are not aware, some of the main things that have been changing inside of Google Ads is that they have changed the way that keyword match types work. For so long in Google Ads, for well over a decade, the way that Google Ads targeted your searches was that it targeted searches around the actual words that were in your keyword phrase. Now that has been updated to targeting the meaning of those keywords or the meaning of that keyword and phrase, and really looking at the intent and what the user is wanting to find. And then on top of that, Google has also introduced newer types of campaigns, significantly Performance Max and Demand Gen, which heavily rely on Google's automated learning. Now, much has been discussed about these changes, but what people aren't really taking into account is for the reason why these changes are occurring. Then because of why those changes, the follow-on effects. So as I mentioned, one of the major significant follow-on effects will be a high increase in CPCs. And let me show you right now why that is going to happen. And the reason for why this is going to happen is that more and more people will do their initial Google searches inside a large language model like ChatGPT or Perplexity or some other tool similar to that. As of October 2024, data was released that saying ChatGPT had taken already 5% of the search market, but also within that of the Google search market, which is still currently has about 83% of the search market, that is going to change with people completing an initial search and then that switching over to more of a chat-based function. Because the next step of this is that ads or recommendations will show within that large language model, whichever one they are using, and this has this effect of less Google searches with more ads. The reason why there is also going to be more ads is, remember what I said previously, is that Google has changed the way that it targets its keyword match types. It's also added in more AI-based campaigns. So the searches that your ads are triggering for are much more broader than what they used to be. So we've got two things happening here. Less space within ads, because when we're looking about these ads or recommendations showing within the large language model, at the moment you've got 4 ads that appear at the top. This will likely go down to 1 or 2 ads from the early modeling that we have seen, or even just 1 ad recommendation. So when you have these two factors in play, where you've got less ad space with more ads or more competitors bidding for the same search terms, the only thing that can happen is you're going to see higher CPCs for high intent search traffic. It's important to note that Google is an auction-based bidding system. And because it is an auction-based bidding system, if there's less ad placements because those ads are now showing within a large language model, and if there's also more advertisers bidding for the same type of keyword searches because Google is broadening that search, what that is going to do is it is going to drive up the costs of CPC, because if there's more or even just the same amount of competitors bidding on less advertising space, as you know, that is going to drive up the prices. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to take you through what you can do right now to position your business and your Google Ads campaigns so that you can still see great results inside of your Google Ads campaigns despite this increase in CPC, which is going to be coming over the coming weeks, months, and years. So the answer to combating higher CPCs comes about in 3 main ways. And the first way, you need to be using a larger number of campaign types. And you need to be using these campaign types in the right way. Now, for a long time, most businesses could get away with 1 or 2 different types of campaigns. So, for a lead generation business, that would be search combined with display. For an e-commerce brand, that would be search and shopping, and then maybe a display campaign in there. But as a general rule, most businesses would only use 1 or 2 different types of campaigns. Now, I'm not talking about the number of campaigns. I'm talking about the actual different types of campaigns. Whereas in this current environment, I see that for success with Google Ads, most businesses will be having to use 4 or 5 different campaign types. Now, very, very soon, I'm going to show you the way that I formulate and use these different types of campaigns. But in order to make sure that you are setting up these campaigns the right way, to help you further, if you follow the link in the description below, you can get access to 6 different campaign guides. And this takes you through the step-by-step process to make sure you're using the right campaign setup settings for your search, shopping, Performance Max, display, video, and even the newest type of campaigns being Demand Gen. And you can get all of those campaign setup guides just by following the link in the description below. But right now, let me show you how I use these different types of campaigns. Now, the one thing that I do want to stress here is that what I'm looking at here is in general cases, this is how I'll use most of these campaigns. There is always some different exceptions depending on your individual type of business. But generally what would happen through here is that we would start with our search, also call only search, but keep in mind that those type of campaigns are about to be taken away or updated later throughout 2025, and then our shopping campaigns. And this is what we traditionally call your bottom of the funnel, where we're really looking at targeting those high intent keywords. And this is the place where you're going to see that most rapid increase in your CPCs. And the reason for that is because, as we said, there's going to be less ad positions moving forward and also less general searches because people will be moving over to Google when they're looking at making that final transaction. So one of the first ways which we can combat the increase in your CPC is to move into what we would call a remarketing campaign using either a display campaign or even a shopping campaign, which is targeted to only show your ads to people who have already been on your website. The big thing I want to stress when you're using display and shopping in this format, you want to be making sure that you're only targeting audiences who have already been on your website. So these are your website visitors, your product page viewers or certain service page viewers, and then you're also excluding your converters. So what you're doing through here is that if you've already paid for a click through the search or shopping network, you want to continue to remarket and showing your ads to these people until you get that conversion. And then another type of campaign which you would use would be either a performance max or a video campaign. Now I have included dynamic search in there, but once again, that is likely to be removed throughout 2025. But the big thing we want to be doing here is, especially if we're moving into performance max, remembering because performance max also targets ads on the search and the shopping network, you want to make sure that you're targeting a different type of visitor here. And this is where we would make sure that we're only bidding for new visitors only. And then if you also wanted to move even further, you could also do demand gen and video. Now, do know that demand gen does play in these other funnels, but essentially where I'm looking at the top level and using these types of campaigns for the majority of their use cases. Now, for an e-commerce brand, I would say in most cases, for a more established campaign, that you'd be using at least 5 or 6 different types of campaigns, being the full collection of search, shopping, performance max, display, video, and demand gen. Whereas for a lead generation, you could be using up to 5 different types of campaigns with you not using that shopping campaign because you don't have a shopping feed. So that's the first change, is that you need to be using more of the different types of campaigns. But the second thing that you need to do in order to really fight that battle against increasing CPCs is to make sure that you're using the right type of campaign at the right time. Now, when I look at all of those 6 different types of campaigns, which are the main campaigns that you'll be using throughout Google Ads for most businesses, I know there is 10 different types of campaigns, but these are the main 6 which most businesses will use, is that I break these types of campaigns into 2 core categories, being our primary campaigns and our secondary campaigns. Now, for your primary campaigns, these would be your search and your shopping campaigns. So if you're a lead generation business, you would start with search only. If you're an e-commerce brand, you would start with search and shopping. And what you're wanting to do with these types of primary campaigns is you're trying to find out the ad copies that convert, the landing pages that convert, and also the keywords that convert. And essentially you stay with those types of campaigns because what you can do is once you find out those 3 core elements of keywords that convert, landing pages that convert, and ad copies that convert, you're then increasing your budget and scaling those 2 campaigns. But at some point, you will need to reach out into different types of campaigns. And the reason for this is because you're seeing an increase in your CPC to the point that it makes scaling or increasing your budgets no longer profitable. And what I mean by that is that if you go to increase a search campaign by 10% and then your CPCs go up by 15 or 20%, it no longer makes scaling that account just through budget increases profitable. And this is what I call CPC resistance, in that you can't scale the account anymore because the increased prices just make it unprofitable. And that's when you then need to reach out to a secondary type of campaign, which would be your display campaigns, your video campaigns, your performance max, or your demand gen campaigns. Now, apart from that CPC resistance, there are other reasons why you would reach out to a secondary campaign earlier than only just because you can't scale anymore. This would be if you do want to speed up that process, you still may be scaling your search and shopping campaigns, but you want to start reaching out to new audiences at an earlier stage so you can do it then. Also, another reason for why you may reach out to especially a video or a demand gen campaign earlier in the piece is if you're in a niche or a service category which doesn't have a high level of search intent traffic. So if you need to educate the market, not only that your product exists, but why someone should be using your service or your product, you may need to reach out into a video format at an earlier stage. And this is the big area where a lot of people go wrong, where they start to introduce different types of campaigns. Because what you want to make sure is that you want to make sure inside of your Google Ads account that you don't have multiple campaigns that are targeting the same keywords in the same locations to the same audiences at the same time. So it is okay to target the same keywords in a search and a Performance Max campaign, as long as you have these key core elements in place, in that you are targeting different audiences or different people. And the way that you achieve this is in our Performance Max campaign. If we were to launch a Performance Max campaign on top of our search campaign, we would make sure that that Performance Max campaign has 3 core settings in place. Firstly, it's got campaign specific goals. So we're only targeting a transactional conversion. We're not looking at add to carts or anything like that, or form inquiries. We're looking at a conversion value, which is at the point where someone has actually become a customer of our business. Secondly, we set this up to only bid for new customers only. And then thirdly, we're adding our own brand as a brand exclusion. So we're removing those brand keywords. Now, as I mentioned in one of the earlier screen shares, if you were to add in a display campaign, what you would do is you would make sure that you're targeting specific audiences. So for example, a remarketing audience, targeting people who have already been on your website. So once again, we're wanting to avoid where we've got multiple campaigns targeting the same keywords or same products to the same audiences, to the same demographics, to the same locations in the same account. So that when you start using these different types of campaigns, you need to be very, very clear about the audiences and the demographics and the locations that you are targeting across these different types of campaigns. And then that brings us to the third and final point. So firstly, you need to be open to using more different types of campaigns. You need to use these at the right time and in the right way. The third thing, in order to make sure that you're lowering or keeping that downward pressure on your CPCs, is that you need to make sure that you are not only collecting, but you're using the right data inside of your Google Ads account. And this is especially true if you want to be using campaigns like Performance Max or demand gen campaigns, especially with Performance Max, which is purely built to generate more conversions. So what it looks at doing is it gets a picture of who converts in your account already, and then it looks at targeting similar and related audiences. But if you don't have that initial conversion data and that initial audience data inside your account, it's really, really hard for Google to do that. So what you want to be making sure is you want to be making sure that you're not only collecting the right audience data, but you've also got the right conversion data feeding back into your Google Ads dashboard. Now, for an e-commerce brand, this is quite easy because you can make sure that you're only tracking or you're only targeting transactional, so transactions or purchases where you've actually got money into your account. For a lead generation business, this can be a little bit trickier, and you need to make sure you've got this set up right, because you don't only want to be targeting people who are filling out your form inquiry or giving your business a phone call. You also want to be targeting and feeding the data back into Google with people who are actually completing that conversion. And this is the process that we call offline conversions. So let's now jump into a real life Google Ads account so I can show you where to make sure that you're getting this right data so that you can use this for your Google Ads campaigns in the right way. So there's 2 main areas you want to be going to. And the first thing is you want to be checking that you're getting the right audience data. So the way that you go and check this is that if you go up into the search bar and type in the word audience, you can go to Tools, Shared Library, Audience Manager. So the other way that you could access this would be Tools, Shared Library, then into your Audience Manager. Now this will straight away bring you to this tab, but I want you to go across into your data segments. And as you can see in this account, we've got a whole heap of different types of data segments that we've collected. And you can see here that we've broken it out into, our different all users. We've also got our converters, and we've got some other different audience lists that we've built in there. But the main thing you want to really make sure that you are building out is your website visitors and your converters. And then if you've also got offline conversions, you can also upload these as a customer match so that we can start feeding and segmenting the different types of accounts. So remember, if we're going to be using a display campaign to do remarketing, what we would do is that we would say, we want you to target these people who have been to our website, so our all users, but we want you to exclude people who have already converted. Now, the way that you go through and do this is that in your data sources, you want to make sure that you're collecting data correctly inside of your Google Ads account. Now, for this business, we're mainly doing it through a Google Analytics 4 collection. You can use different platforms, but the main thing is you just want to make sure that you're getting this data coming in correctly. And if you want to go through and create out some different segments, you can go through this and use your data segments and start just to build in some different types of users, different types of website visitors. So this one, we could just purely go website visitors. If you wanted to as well, you can even build it out that you want them to only go to specific pages, but it's a simple step-by-step process of just setting out a different type of audience that you want to see in your account. Now, the second part that you want to be going into is you want to be going into, and this is going to be especially true for lead generation businesses, is you want to make sure that much you've got data collection points for your conversion actions. Now, the benefit of doing this, and I want to show you one of the benefits of this, is that this is an account that you can see that we've scaled up from a spend of about $16,000 a month up to we're able to peak it up to $30,000. But what I want to show you in through here is that when we really started to scale this account, we actually added in a Performance Max campaign. And that really came in from this April period. And you can see from here, our CPC, let me just roll this out, was rolling. It did start to increase, but it was rolling out in between that, ranging in between $4 and then into $2. And this is the big way that we're able to keep that CPC cost down, because our search CPC started to really skyrocket, but we were able to lower that or keep a cap on that due to adding in those newer types of campaigns. But the only reason that we were able to do this in a significant way is because we structured our Performance Max campaign to only target on offline conversions. The way that we did the offline conversions was that if you go into your tools, into your data manager, you can see through here that we did this through an external tool called HubSpot. Now, you can also do this through other tools like Salesforce or Zoho, but if you're a smaller business, you can also do this in a manual way by uploading your completed conversions. Now, it doesn't really matter what tool you use to import that offline conversion data, whether you do use a simple integration tool like a Salesforce, a Zoho, or a HubSpot, and there's many, many more that I haven't mentioned, or if you even do a manual process. The main thing is that especially if you're a lead generation business, you want to be communicating back to Google the conversion metrics that go past just whether someone completed out a form inquiry, and you really want to be giving Google the data on these are the actual people that convert. Similar to what happens for an e-commerce brand, where you are not just targeting those people who are adding your products to the cart, but you're targeting the people who are actually completing with the sales process. So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Aaron Young for Define Digital Academy. And remember, if you want to get the setup guides for how you can set up all of the different types of campaigns that you'll need in 2025, make sure you follow that link in the description below. And if you'd like to see more about how I use an account structure with multiple different types of campaign types, I want you to go through and watch this video right here. See you next time.